The US wants to achieve energy dominance. We support you in that view as Fortress North America. Tim Hodgson, the Canadian energy minister, recently told the US. Regarding Trump's US tech billionaire friends wanting to build out AI data centers and needing gas to do so, we can provide the gas, Hodgson, again, our country's energy minister, said recently. Those are real quotes. Here's another one. This one's from George Orwell's Animal Farm. 4 legs good, 2 legs better. Or as we might adapt it to the policies and climate cuts of the Canadian government, Canadian sovereignty good, Trump's Fortress North America better. Welcome to another edition of the Environment in Canada podcast, a podcast about the environment in Canada by Sierra Club Canada. I'm your host, Connor Curtis, Director of Communications at Sierra Club Canada, and we didn't get around to editing a full episode this week, so I'm going to be reading you our most recent newsletter because it is both timely and important. In December, we warned that Trump's new 2025 national security strategy declared U.S. plans to use private sector influence to erode Canadian sovereignty. The strategy mentions the oil and gas and tech sectors in particular as tools for expanding U.S. influence, and specifically declares climate action in other countries such as Canada to be a threat to U.S. dominance. All the more reason to take climate action if we want sovereignty, but U.S. influence is working. I just read out at the beginning of this podcast quotes from the energy minister in Canada talking about us being part of Fortress North America and helping with U.S. energy dominance and providing gas to AI data centers in the States. Only 24 hours after closing a deal, quote unquote, with Ottawa on methane regulations, the Alberta government released new methane regulations undercutting the plan. The federal government is now trying to ship more oil to the U.S. via a Keystone XL pipeline revival. They even admit they have no intention of selling less to the U.S., but simply deflect critique by promising illusionary demand for oil elsewhere. And I say illusionary because there is no market elsewhere for oil. We've covered this numerous times and episodes in the past, but when we talk about pipelines or new oil projects in Canada, there simply isn't the demand there given demand declines. And Ember Energy is now coming out saying that oil demand could peak before 2029. We already know gas demand, same story, peak in the early 2030s, most likely sooner now because of the Iran war that has driven the world to go renewable even faster. The 4 companies that represent 80% of Canadian oil sands production are 60% American-owned. They're sending a large share of their profits to their shareholders in the United States, even as they lobby to weaken Canadian climate policy and hold us back on renewable energy here in Canada. And thanks to oil and gas's influence, our federal government's plan is now to, 1, help the U.S. government and their AI tech billionaire friends torch the climate, causing more out-of-control wildfires, so they can generate AI slop and disinformation to be used against Canada, by the way, via water-wasting, gas-powered data centers. And 2, to trust oil and gas corporations and further integrate our economy with the U.S. As for the idea that U.S.-owned projects represent some sort of playing card that we hold, well, number 1, for that to be a playing card, you actually need to be willing to play the card, which we haven't seen. Number 2, the idea is fundamentally flawed because you have these US investments in Canadian resources that make it actually harder for us to turn around and take contrary action to the US. And we're cutting the services that would provide the oversight over these sorts of projects. So that doesn't make any sense. It's just not a consistent argument given anything else that we're seeing, including attempts to make it so that corporations can be exempted from Canadian laws at the discretion of a minister. And we warned a while back, by the way, that that was what oil and gas interests in Canada really want. Our economy to be further integrated with the United States, to put more oil into the United States, not other places where there is no market, and to hold us back on renewable energy that could provide real sovereignty. All of this is instead of going renewable. And yes, it is instead of going renewable. The National Observer reports Ottawa's one-stop shop for companies seeking clean tech support is being cut. It's part of a huge number of cuts across the board by the federal government. The federal government is deflecting critique by saying that they are investing in carbon capture and storage. But carbon capture and storage, or CCS, is an ineffective, dangerous scam that actually acts as a way to funnel more public money to those American-owned oil corporations. That's just one of the many ways public sector cuts are undermining communities' ability to get ahead on renewable energy. We've got some more links in the description in the newsletter to more on this, but it doesn't just stop there. The cuts could undermine our ability to prevent oil spills from becoming catastrophes and ensure dangerous goods don't explode on our railways, quote unquote. And polling shows none of this is popular with Canadians. Not in Alberta, not in Newfoundland and Labrador, not anywhere in Canada. It actually shows that 58% of Canadians say transitioning away from fossil fuels towards renewable energy, which is entirely possible, is more important than ever in light of US aggression. Only 11% of Canadians say less. A majority of Albertans would get more pride out of Canada being a renewable energy superpower than being an oil and gas superpower. And 79% of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians would rather us be a renewable energy superpower. So I'm going to call on you to take action. Call your MP, there'll be a link in the description, and cabinet ministers and demand a renewable future rather than oil and gas expansion. Say no to gas for AI billionaires, say no to Keystone XL revival, say no to Fortress North America, and say no to US energy dominance. And say yes to the thing that scares the US government, which is Canada taking climate action. And go warn other people. Share this podcast, share our newsletter, or just talk to others and share our social media posts. We'll have some links in the description. But get the word out. Our situation brings to mind a warning from George Orwell in the book Animal Farm. 4 legs good, 2 legs better. A warning that even governments with the best of initial intentions can become the thing they claim to prevent. A warning that we must always hold leaders to account. We must not allow Canada's slogan to become Canadian sovereignty good, Fortress North America better. We must not let that become a legitimate idea. Indeed, there are other impacts. The federal government is cutting services that help defend our sovereignty from the sorts of communications and oligarchical attacks we have covered on this podcast in the past that the US is likely to keep using against Canada. Government is cutting diplomatic capacity, vital to disconnecting from the US, cutting our ability to tax billionaires, and ignoring completely options to strengthen services in ways that also help us improve local sustainability, resilience, and sovereignty, like building a sustainable post office system. All this sets us up to become more like a version of the United States that led, inevitably, to oligarchy. None of this is strategic, none of this is pragmatic, none of this is practical. You can't win against US oligarchy by letting oligarchy in through the back door. All the defense spending in the world doesn't matter in that case because you've misjudged how US influence works. The warning signs were there, and we pointed them out early on. The claims that all of this pro-oil stuff was just 4D chess didn't match the details. As we wrote in December 2025, there was the Prime Minister taking speech ideas from billionaire-founded Build Canada, a group linked to oil and gas interests, and tech entrepreneur Tobias Lütke, who famously said Canada should not hit back in response to US tariffs and characterized Trump's demands as reasonable. The government went further, embedding 50 corporate leaders in key government roles on the advice of pro-big oil, pro-big tech group Build Canada. The unnecessary scrapping of climate laws was another sign for a likely to be useless industrial carbon price in Alberta, including the weakening of anti-greenwashing laws that made no sense whatsoever because they simply prevented oil and gas corporations from lying to the Canadian public and helped safeguard our democracy in the process. Then there was the federal government's decision to add the US-owned Slism's LNG project, a project backed by friends of Trump, to its list of major projects. And a March 2026 update on that project, by the way, the US backers of Slism's LNG now seem to want public subsidies for it from the federal government in order to make it worthwhile, something that would be very unpopular according to polling. There are rumors that within Natural Resources Canada, criticism of oil and gas's economics has been silenced. There's NRCan's failure to answer journalists' questions on sustainable jobs. There's the NRCan cuts that will harm our ability to protect Canadians from floods and wildfires. All of this evidence said that this wasn't 4D chess. The industrial carbon pricing provisions under the new pipeline MOU will likely not be decided in time for the April 1st deadline, and Big Oil is still attacking industrial carbon pricing despite the MOU. Who could have guessed? And the agreement on methane, even if it had been able to stand up to erosion, which within 48 hours it was not able to, represents delayed action and more vague promises of future finalization. Ottawa just agreed to subsidize Equinor's Beta Nord oil project to the tune of $1 billion. Despite the fact that there's a 16% chance of a serious oil spill, and Equinor is making huge profits, despite the fact that it would take 18 to 36 days to cap a major well blowout, meaning 18 to 36 days of oil flowing into the North Atlantic. And all of this is being done to keep up the illusion of oil and gas expansion. And it is an illusion. It's scary to witness just how quickly oil and gas interests can corrupt systems. And I wish I wasn't saying this to you. It's scary to realize that we must hold government to account while also fixing whatever we can on our own in our communities to go renewable locally. Because there are no magical heroes coming to save the day. Except the hero you become when you work together, speak with others, and call leaders out. Before we end today, just a reminder that you can take action on environmental issues by visiting sierraclub.ca, but please go call your MP about this issue. We have tons of petitions, other actions and events, and regular news updates you can sign up for on the homepage. You can also find Sierra Club Canada on social media, and you can listen to the Environment in Canada podcast on the Harbinger Media Network, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast also airs on CKUT Broadcast Radio in Montreal, 90.3 FM, bi-weekly on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to click follow or subscribe so you get the latest episodes from us.